Welcome back to Coffee Break with the Chamber Chicks. In today's Gold Dome update for our White County listeners, we're going to break down the final hours of the Georgia General Assembly's 25-26 legislative year. After a flurry of midnight negotiations, now a stack of bills makes its way to Governor Kemp's desk, ranging from statewide income tax cuts to major education reforms. Let's dive into the details of what passed and what it means for our community's future. So grab yourself a cup of coffee and let's dive into all these bills.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Coffee Break with the Chamber Chicks. It's your White County Chamber Chicks. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Beth.
And welcome to our legislative update podcast for the 2026 session.
Honestly, I thought this day would never come.
Beth's face is like how she's felt the whole time.
Literally the longest legislative session. I mean, from day before the session started, it was crazy. And it was quite the roller coaster ride.
Anytime, if you walked in our office, probably anytime during the session and Beth was in the office, you probably found her like this with her head in her hands or being like, what is going on? Because that was kind of feeling like the mantra of this legislative session, from Puerto Rican time zones to a lot of other things.
Absolute. The elimination of all taxes. We're just going to get rid of it all.
So a lot of things happened in this session, some that impact us in weird ways, and then some that impact our businesses, like super, super day-to-day impacts.
Yeah.
So this podcast, we're going to talk a little bit to the best of our known abilities, I should add.
I will tell you that this is subject to change. Now, the governor has until May 12th to sign a lot of these bills. That being said, we don't even have full verbiage on some of these bills in order for us to really understand them, to communicate it to you. So
little disclaimer, we are...
It ain't over.
Not the legislators, we can't explain all the ins and outs, and in a lot of cases, neither can they. Yeah. Some of them, they change so fast.
And we spend a lot of time paying attention to this because it impacts your business on the day-to-day. And our agreement with our legislators is, as an organization, the chamber wants to communicate how laws will impact your business. And that's a great place for both the businesses and the lawmakers. And that's kind of the sweet spot that we've found. And so we're going to talk today about a couple of pieces of legislation and how they'll impact things that are important to you and things that are important to life here in White County.
Absolutely. To kick us off with things that are important, we'll start with something that's very important to me. If you know me, you know I love to read. So there is House Bill 1193 was a bill that is about literacy. Can you tell us a little bit more about that bill and how it impacts White County?
Sure. So on the first day of the legislative session, first full day of the legislative session, we were able to have an update with the Speaker of the House, and he shared a statistic with a small group of us from White County that I found shocking, that 2/3 of Georgian third graders are not reading on grade level. And that was just absolutely shocking. In the workforce development field, we understand that the ability to read is the ability to learn. So making sure that our children have the best foundation for reading possible is crucial. And so in that House Bill 1193, we have a local Hall County Representative, Matt Dubnik, that championed this, and kudos to Matt. He did a great job. But it allocates funding for kindergarten through third grade literacy coaches to make sure that we're making up the ground. No shame in how we got here. It's just that we have to get out of it, right? I mean, there are a lot of things that played into a decline in literacy rates. I mean, all of the foundational stuff that goes on during pre-K, first grade, kindergarten, all those foundational literacy things that children learn in the first early years of education, a lot of that was lost during COVID. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that we're not going to get that back. So let's find a plan to fix it now and move forward. So there is funding for literacy coaches, and our system has literacy plans. It's important to the White County school system. I have to say, I've talked to our Lori Burkett, our previous superintendent, and Jonathan Stribling, our new superintendent, that this is very important. And we are very blessed in White County to have an amazing school system, and how well they work with the businesses and how well the businesses work with the school system. It is, I will tell you, I travel around the United States talking to other communities about workforce development, and you cannot imagine how well we have it here, and how well we support our school system and how our school system works with the businesses. So that being said, the state is funding these literacy coaches and making sure that there is a plan and some performance, key performance things that we're going to try to meet as it goes forward. So I appreciate that House bill. That's very important.
But I think, literacy creates self-sufficiency.
It does.
And you
If
can learn anything if you have the ability to. And not that people who, struggle with reading cannot, but it's significantly more challenging.
Yes.
And I just think that's very vital.
Yes. People that read communicate better. They absolutely can learn better. It is important. It's very important. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of the youngest of our citizens the best we can. And I would say our school system is the leading advocate on that. So I think they're going to do great with that.
Now we're going to talk a little bit about all of your favorite topics.
Taxes.
Taxation. So there's a lot of bills surrounding taxation in this. Well, and even in the year prior that we'll talk about. But let's start off talking about House Bill 463 regarding personal income tax. Tell us a little bit about that bill, where we stand with that.
So this bill started in the Senate to lower personal income tax. We have some states around us, like Tennessee and Florida, that do that. And how can the state lower the personal income taxes? And so it started in the Senate, finished up in the House, but this bill reduces the flat personal tax rate from 5.19% to 4.99%. And that will be effective for 2026 taxation year. But then it has further de-escalation of that to a 3.99% flat taxation by 2028. So over time, it will lower. There are a lot of things funded by these rates, and so we'll be watching for that on personal taxes.
What about the new exemptions for workers that were in this bill?
So from 2026 to 2028, the first $1,750 in overtime and tips. So this is something that started on a federal level that our state legislator has heard the people, and they're trying to apply that. So the first $1,750 of overtime and tips will be exempt from state income taxes. And for an economy like ours, where a significant population of ours works in retail, construction, manufacturing, and hospitality services, those overtime and tip related services, those that's important to us. That's important to our workforce.
So obviously something that a lot of folks don't understand when it comes to reducing taxes is the money's still got to come from somewhere, right? We can't, it's not just gonna appear. So in order for us to have this reduction in income taxes, what tax credits were repealed through this House bill?
So the ones that there were a litany of taxes that would be repealed, and some of them were crucial, especially to all of rural Georgia, not just White County. We have job tax credits where a business grows and adds jobs. A small business is able to get tax credits to grow. The reason why the state has this is so that small businesses, and definitionally, we don't have a single large business in White County. All of our employers in White County are, by the federal definition, small businesses. So every business in White County was eligible for some sort of additional jobs tax credit. So say you own a retail store on the square and you add 3 people to your staff, then you could get some tax credits by adding those jobs. It really helps small business employ local people. And as we increase our labor participation rate, having those jobs is very, very important. It's important for our high school seniors, juniors, and seniors that have summer jobs. It's where a lot of our kids get their first-time job skills is through these job tax credits. So having this tax credit was important, and we fought to keep that. The good news is we were able to keep that. The bad news is if you're teleworking, which a lot of y'all are, because in the early 2000s, Wisdom of White County said we need some great broadband fiber up here, which facilitated a lot of people to telework during COVID from White County. You're going to lose those teleworking credits that you used to get. Could write off your technology. You could write off a part of your expenses that you had for teleworking. You're not going to be able to do that anymore. Those are just going to have to go away. Other things that are going away, which we don't particularly have here, but is significant across the state, is manufacturing of personal protective PPE, personal protective gear. We use that a lot in agriculture. There's a lot of PPE used in agriculture. So what it means to White County is, though we're not manufacturing it, when our agricultural producers buy that, it's going to cost more. So we now have an operational cost shift onto ag producers. So for White County, where it's our largest industry, that's a significant impact to the operational cost of agriculture businesses. Mm-hmm. So it's going to get you one way or another.
So let's talk about Senate Bill 33. What is the LHOS introduced in that, and how does it relate to our tax initiatives?
Okay, history. So this bill has me pulling my hair out. So all of you super sleuthers out there, if you're like us, we're going to go, Senate Bill 33, what is that? When you look that up, you're going to find it is a bill about hemp production. So
closely related.
Absolutely.
To our
in
tax
no way
initiatives.
Just so you know, news outlets are reporting that this is the Property Tax Reduction Act, or it's called the Home Act. But when you pull that Senate bill up, and I hope you do, I hope you're doing your research, it's not going to read like that at all. We are still waiting on that verbiage. We do have a couple of lobbyists still working. We anticipate there'll be additional information coming out about this because it hasn't been fully released. All that to say, this started last year, in last year's legislative session. So I'm going to back up just a little bit so I can give a little history. House Bill 581 was voted on in November of 2024. So I guess started in the 2024 legislative cycle. So in 2024, House Bill 581 was a bill allowing the White County governments, so the city of Cleveland, city of Helen, and White County, to put before the voters an additional 1% sales tax designated to lower the overall liability of your property tax. We called it, when you heard us talk about it, we called it FLOST, Floating Local Option Sales Tax. Since that time, voters of White County passed it by almost 80%. I mean, overwhelmingly
in 2025.
Yeah, in 2025. You guys voted in November of 2025, passing this additional 1% sales tax. So we did what we were supposed to do. There were, I want to say 35, it may be 39. All you sleuthers out there, check me out. But it's about 30, mid-30s number of counties also passed this. But the greater portion of the state did not. For whatever reason, right? Other communities did what was best for them. No shame. I'm just saying, we passed it, others didn't. So because from that, the state legislature decided, well, we're going to make it statewide. And so they created, it started in the House with House Bill 1116, and it continued into the Senate, where the original Senate bill failed, but then was reworded into Senate Bill 33. So that one in its current state is called the L host. And so in effectiveness, it's the same 1 penny sales tax. It it allows communities to add this additional 1% sales tax to help offset homestead property exemptions. So if you live full time in White County and your residence has a homestead exemption, you will see this. We are still waiting for word. I haven't seen the legal document yet, but we understand that the floating local option sales tax that you guys passed, that White County passed, will not be changed. So when you voted for that, it was to last for 5 years. So from our current understanding is that that is still going to be the case for White County. We don't know what changes might be. I think there might be some legality in that if they try to change it, because voters have already had a referendum on this. All that to say, currently, right now, and we've talked to you guys a lot, if you're a retailer, restaurant, if you collect sales tax, you're collecting 8% instead of the 7% that you collected last year. Through the course of 2026, we'll continue to collect that 1% sales tax. Once that collection is made, that pot of money will be applied to all property taxes, not just homestead, which is an amazing thing for our community, because it allows businesses to have funds to put back in their business instead of paying property tax on those things. So for a brick and mortar store on the square, instead of paying the full freight of property taxes, they're able to take that money and put it back into adding more services, adding more labor, hiring more people, repairing the building. It can be used in a lot of different ways. So we were super excited to be able to have the floating local option sales tax. As a taxpayer, you're not going to see that in this year's assessment. You'll see it in next year's assessment, because it takes a whole year to collect it. And you'll get this year's assessment in 2026. We won't know how much we've collected until the end of 2026. So a little patience with that, but we think that's probably the best scenario. And again, because we haven't seen the actual verbiage of this bill, we really don't know what it's going to look like. But for now, we understand we're okay with our flossed.
But we'll let you know.
Yeah, we're going to keep
about
you updated.
The other, because again, we're not so sure about that.
And that 1 penny sales tax, unlike like we have an e-splost up this year, an e-splost, that money goes directly to the school system. And I got to give a shout out to the school system. Their e-splost this year covers every school. Every school will get attention. Every school will get something that they need in this year's e-splost. It is not earmarked for one particular project. It covers needed capital expenditures in each school in White County. So we're super glad to hear about the plans for e-splost this year. It is not like a regular splost, because we've talked to you about regular splost in the past, and that is a 1% sales tax that goes to things like water tower improvements and road improvements. We have a lot of roads that need some improvement. That money goes straight to those things. This goes straight to lowering your property taxes. The floating local option sales tax goes straight to your property taxes. Senate Bill 33 in its early iterations, we were very aware that it does have guardrails on property tax growth. Assessments can only go up 3% or the rate of inflation. So, and for White County, that's been a thing always. I mean, I don't know. I mean, probably in the 80s it might have been different, but we've looked over the tax assessment, and a 3% is usually what we have anyway. So unless you made some significant change to your property taxes really went up at the rate of inflation. So
I'm Don Allison, North Georgia Market President of United Bank Shares, and we're proud to present the Chamber's Business Block Party. We would love for you to come join us on May 7th from 3 to 7 p.m. at Freedom Park as we kick off the summer season with more than 60 local businesses. There will be activities for all ages, including inflatables, food vendors, lawn games, and giveaways. It's a great opportunity to spend time with your friends and family, connect with the local businesses, and enjoy an afternoon of free fun with your community. Come join us with the Business Block Party on May 7th in Freedom Park. We'll see you there.
All right, now let's get into enough about taxation. We don't want to throw any tea in the, lake on the top of y'all or something. No, just kidding.
I want to know what they're paying on property taxes.
That's not real.
That's
okay,
not a real thing. If you want to know that story, you have to come by and get a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
We got some doozies.
Yeah, we do. We've got some
Listen,
good
y'all
stories.
should come by and just have a cup of coffee. We keep a notebook.
So let's move to talk about House Bill 1030. Tell us a little bit about that and what the requirements are of that.
Very important to workforce and economic development. It's called the Math Matters Act, and we're seeing a huge surge. If you were at our annual meeting in August, our speaker talked about what the future of workforce needed to look like, and there are jobs that our children will fill that we don't even have a concept of what they're going to look like. So making sure that we have solid foundations in math and reading are so crucial. So Math Matters, House Bill 1030, it mandates 60-minute math instruction for 4th and 5th graders for the 2027-2028 school year. And it requires an automatic advanced course enrollment for distinguished learners. So if your child is exceptionally gifted, they'll move on. Some kids really do well in reading, some do really well in math. So if you have a kid who is exceptional in that, there'll be a path of progression so that a child who is exceptional in math can move faster than the classroom that they're in. Which I think is great because I think that's where you lose a lot of kids. Some kids need more attention and some kids can move on, and that there's a spectrum and not a this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
I think that's exceptional. That sort of meets people where they are.
Because I think there's so many kids that are so smart that they get bored and then they don't turn in they don't turn in homework just because they're bored.
They're bored.
Not because they can't or don't know how to do it.
And then you have some kids who need more instruction.
Yeah.
Right? And that's okay. I mean, we all learn on different paces.
Absolutely.
And I think this is a great way to manage that.
So House Bill 987, the Portable Benefits Plan Act. Tell me a little bit about that and how that impacts our folks.
Yeah. So again, in our workforce vein of things that the Chamber does, this allows businesses to voluntarily contribute to portable benefit packages. So if you're my age and you left your job before, you probably had a COBRA plan when you moved from job to job before the ACA. This allows companies to contribute in a way that really ties the employee back to the organization. And for those of us who worked at a time when your company provided all your health insurance benefits, and a lot of you still do, that was a great loyalty piece. So now the state is allowing companies to benefit pay into accounts like a health savings account, a retirement account, and you can do that for independent contractors. So it does provide a little bit of that employee-employer loyalty that we kind of miss post-ACA.
Because we do have a lot of businesses that have, whether their business is built around independent contractors or they have one or two. So that's a big thing for our community.
And it doesn't change if you are an independent contractor, it doesn't change your employability status. It doesn't, you don't have to change what you're doing and how your taxes are filed because your contract is with an employer. They can pay into those retirement or HSA benefits. So I think that would be really, really good for helping businesses grow. And a lot of businesses need to start with an independent contractor.
Yeah.
So we have a particular several small businesses in our chamber that as they grow, they bring on independent contractors until they can make them full-time employees. So it's a good path for growth for our small businesses.
Absolutely.
We're proud of that.
Now, in addition to taxation, we're going to talk about everybody's second favorite thing, which is regulations. So,
are y'all bored yet? I'm telling you.
They're
this
like,
has been the craziest.
we hate taxes. We hate government regulation. This podcast is dumb, but no, it's not. You need to know
Well,
these
you need
things.
to know. I mean, is
regardless
it dumb?
of whether you like the concept of government regulation or not. If you take a Ron Swanson approach or not, you need to know because you're not exempt based on your opinions, okay?
If you've ever had to deal with a state agency around regulation, you know that certain agencies define things different. So this eliminates judicial deference from state
House
agencies.
Bill 1247.
I'm sorry, yeah, House Bill 1247. It sort of aligns state agency interpretations. So whether you go from county to county, if you're one of our businesses who works in multiple counties, a lot of y'all are, and you have to have some sort of state approval for something, you know that working with one county's agency versus another county agency can be very different. So this sort of aligns everything to make sure that interpretations of laws are concise across the state. And that's a good thing. Important if you're a hairdresser, if you are in any kind of construction, whether it's residential, commercial, restaurant, any of that stuff, this all applies. Agriculture, this applies to our agriculture partners. Y'all know my family farms and different rules in different counties that impacts how we conduct business, and we farm in a couple of counties. So it's important to have some sort of commonality, right? As long as we're dealing with the state.
So now let's talk about Senate Bill 447 and land disturbance. How does Senate Bill 447 affect land disturbance permits?
So a land disturbance permit, if you've not had to do new construction, you don't even know what a land disturbance permit is. But anytime you put shovel to dirt, you have to have a land disturbance permit. So particularly as Cleveland grows, as Helen redevelops, these are very important for our cities because we have some new development and some growth in both of those. We have some redevelopment in both of those. We have some new housing projects coming in. We have a new hotel coming in, a hotel that's about to open in Helen. We have new development in each of those cities. This impacts any new building or development, and it creates a faster timeline for permit approvals. And that's the big thing is if you're in development, you know that time to market is crucial for the overall financial viability of any project. So having that streamlined process is very helpful. Not to say we're out here tearing up every piece of dirt. That's not the truth. But for those projects that are beneficial to the community and are smart development or redevelopment, this is very helpful.
So House Bill 1470. So tell us what protections that bill provides for businesses regarding website accessibility, because that has been accessibility in general, but especially web accessibility has kind of been a confusing, very relevant topic.
Yeah. So if you're a member in Helen or Cleveland, I've probably had a conversation with you about this, about ADA compliance. The city has I know the city of Cleveland has reached out. I would imagine that Helen has as well, but ADA compliance with your website is a thing. So even if you're not a brick and mortar building, like a lot of these are, ADA compliance is significant and violations are costly. So your chamber is working to make sure you understand what those are. But this bill allows businesses to pursue damages in the event that a plaintiff files an unsuccessful lawsuit. So if a lawsuit is filed against your business, you have to address those issues. You're going to need to hire an attorney. You're going to need to stop what you're doing and collect data. You're going to have to file paperwork. There's costs involved in that. If the lawsuit fails, it allows you as the business owner to collect damages.
And this is specifically for web accessibility,
For web
right?
accessibility. Okay. Yes, specifically for web accessibility. So That's a lot.
And that's not everything.
I was going to say that's not even near everything.
But those are some things. So there's a lot going on still because May 12th, that's the day that officially
the governor is required to sign or veto all bills by May 12th. All of that to say, we also have a big election coming up. If any of these things concern you, then I really hope that you vote this year. You have an e-splosh that's on the ballot. You have your Senate District 51 is on the ballot. Your Board of Education, you have two seats on your Board of Education that are on the ballot. We have state representation. We have local representation. Make sure you look at your ballot, understand who you're voting for. We have in this primary race on May the 19th is your primary race. You have lieutenant governor, you have governor, you have, just a litany of, I think we have over 250 seats are changing in the state of Georgia this year. So getting out and voting this year is very, very, very important.
I don't know if you said you have congressmen up for.
You have congressmen.
You've got a lot just
you have a
on
Senate
every
seat,
level.
A federal Senate seat that's up. Yeah. So make sure, and if you need any information, you're not able to find it, let us know. I'll help you find it. But
you can pull a sample ballot
absolutely
from White County Elections page on the website.
Yeah. So you go to the whitecounty.gov, I think is their website. Whitecounty.gov.
Whitecountyga.gov.
Yeah, whitecountyga.gov. And you can go to the elections page on the county's website and see the ballot for your district. Now,
because you may know who you're voting for, but there's still questions that you're voting for on this ballot. So don't wait and then get there and be like, I don't know what this means. I'm just going to pick yes.
Right? Don't do that. Make sure you understand what the question is. That's a great point. Make sure you understand what the question is.
Early voting starts April 27th.
Yeah. So very important to go make sure that you vote. And I know that there are a lot of organizations that have candidates forums and things like that. Listen to those, attend those, read those. And if we can help you find any information, we'll be happy to share.
Absolutely. Because your voice matters.
It does.
Even if you feel like, the state of the world is in such disarray. Like, what could I do? Cast your vote.
Absolutely. Starting at home is the best way. If you take care of things here in White County, if you are an educated voter in White County, the rest will work itself out, right?
Yep.
So,
but thanks for joining us for this episode of Coffee Break with the Chamber Chicks, where we just really dove into all the things.
It's not over.
Yeah. So if you have questions on anything, please reach out to us. Like we always say, we don't know. We may not know the answer, but we maybe can find. I say maybe at this point. Maybe we can find the answer because, like Beth said, we're still waiting on specifically on the verbiage of the
Senate
law
Bill 33.
stuff.
Yeah.
So on the L host stuff. So that one's a big question mark.
Honestly, I think we're safe with our floss. The voters have voted on that. I think it would that the state would be hard pressed to end that without. The voters have voted. That seems like the final for me, but we're gonna. All that to say, we're gonna stay on top of it so that you don't have to.
Exactly. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Coffee Break with the Chamber Chicks. Make sure to like and subscribe. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, so you can find us a lot of different places because we're all about giving you tools to help you grow your business, even when it is overwhelming and not fun stuff like all these bills that could impact you. But that's why we're here.
But I don't want something surprising you. That's
right,
the last
and to
thing
give you the tools that you need to grow your business and better our community, honestly. So thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.
And see you. Love you. Bye.